Hello, legends, heroes, and poopy heads. Welcome to the Omni Flash channel, where Omni Flash will take gaming to the next level. Please like and subscribe.
This is Omni Flash, your guide to Diablo Immortal. Exciting news! The Blood Knight is here, coming on June 13th. In today's video, we're going to be telling you everything you need to know about the Blood Knight class. The Blood Knight is going to be a class that you'll be able to class change into and class change. You can revert back to your own class if you don't like it. So they've made it easy. They've made it super easy. They have changed it so that everyone can transfer and test out a Blood Knight. If you don't like it, you can revert back to your original class instantly. And if you wanted to transfer back to Blood Knight, you can transfer back to Blood Knight after 1 day. So there is a 1 day cooldown to transfer to Blood Knight, and then you can transfer back to your original class. This will be for 3 weeks. 3 weeks you'll be able to transfer to Blood Knight and come back. Also, a lot of people are asking, have they fixed the set items? All right, so set items used to be if, for example, you're a wizard. Okay, Blood Knight is a physical class, so it's a strength class. Will your intelligence set gear transfer over? It will. Whenever you class change now, it has been completely changed. When you class change, for example, from a wizard to a Blood Knight. I'm a wizard right now. I'm going to class change to a Blood Knight. All of my set items on my body, all in my backpack, in my stashes, any set items that I own will transfer and turn into Blood Knight set items. If I am a Blood Knight and I transfer back into a wizard, all of the strength set items on the body, in the backpack, or in the stash will transfer back to wizard or whatever class you go to. Okay, if you decide, hey, I want to try the necromancer out, it will turn into int set items. Everything on your body, in your backpack, or in your stash. This has been confirmed by the devs. Next, Mr. Quinn, a dev, he's in charge of all the lore in Diablo Immortal, will tell you the origins and how Blood Knights are created. It's very interesting to hear
about the opportunity to release the Blood Knight on everybody.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I know, like, obviously everyone's kind of seeing the Blood Knight and they're thinking, like, is this, like, vampiric in some sort of way? Or, like, how does this fit in with the actual lore within Diablo?
Right, so the fine details are Blood Knights and vampires are intertwined. On Sanctuary, vampires are kind of like living plagues. They go from hunting ground to hunting ground, they kill people, they bite people, and sometimes people who they've bitten, they suffer this monstrous transformation. They start to devolve into what we call thralls, kind of like lesser vampiric beings, long teeth, hunger for blood, all that stuff. And a Blood Knight is a person who, through means of an ancient ritual, has that curse of thraldom arrested inside them, frozen essentially in place. They get some advantages, but they get some drawbacks too.
What do you mean, the curse of turning into a thrall is a drawback?
Well, their thraldom is essentially on pause. So basically what happens is a Blood Knight, also preternaturally strong and fast, can see in the dark, can smell blood from a mile away, doesn't age anymore, as you've seen in the concept art, very, very fancy. But on the flip side, you know, they have these blood red eyes, they have black veins in their face, makes people uncomfortable. and maybe
why.
Yeah, right. And sort of more pivotally than that, you know, deep inside their soul there is an abomination, a monstrous darkness that hungers for violence. And in order to tamp that down, in order to slow their transformation further, they have to perform a ritual. That keepsake that you saw in our cinematic character's right hand, the little thing on the chain.
Oh, the chain, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically their lifeline.
So like a link to their past?
Yeah. It's got a memento within of the last place that they were kind of truly human.
Right.
And so every morning, noon, and night, they're doing ablutions with this thing to hopefully continue to keep the darkness at bay. But, you know, it's a process.
Right.
The ritual, it's hearsay. You know, it's been passed down for hundreds of years. And for basically every Blood Knight, you know, it may fail at some point. All Blood Knights are doomed to one day succumb to their curse.
And they don't know if that's 1 day, 1 year, 1,000 years.
Could
They
be
don't know.
centuries,
Right, yeah.
right? They're very, very long-lived. What they do know and what they pledge on is that they're going to use all of the time they have left to push back the darkness. And ultimately for them, since that is such an uncertain question, it's really about their inner sense of balance. Can I do enough good
Right.
to make up for the evil that will rise when I'm gone?
I just wanted to give a shout out because we had the art up there earlier, and that art is gorgeous looking. At the same time, they're very pretty. I've been joking about it. I'm like, oh, look, they're so pretty.
If you were going to turn into a monster, you'd want to stop.
Or it's
there,
funny
right?
because they're very gorgeous here, and then they turn into the abomination, which is really funny to see. So it's like a complete opposite of what it is.
I mean, you mentioned the abomination. I think we saw the Blood Knight turn into this creature during that. So what actually is going on here? Like, this is I guess Chris will talk eventually about how an abomination comes to be, but this is basically them tapping into what's inside them to change form.
Yeah, they're letting the curse off the leash just a little bit. It's going to grant them extreme power in the short term.
This is a Bruce Banner Hulk thing.
Yeah, but maybe there's a little anime teardrop there of do I come back from this?
Right. Okay, got it.
Awesome. Well,
Next, the devs will talk about the skills and how the Blood Knight will play. Check this out. It's really awesome.
a gameplay style. Like, what if you're playing at Blood Knight? What can you expect the style to be as a person that's actually jumping into Diablo?
Yeah, so the Blood Knight is actually a melee hybrid class, meaning there's tons of up-close combat with polearms. However, they have a host of shadow and blood abilities they can use manipulate the battlefield in their favor. I think the drawback of Blood Knights might be that players that start playing it might feel that their mobility is limited. However, they have tons of legendary essences to help them improve the ability to close the gap on enemies, as well as life-stealing abilities to help them sustain themselves in lengthy combat sequences.
Got it. So like in combat more often, close combat, so they're essentially taking more damage, but then they have abilities themselves to actually essentially drain, as we can see, kind of like life from others, essentially replenish their life while they're in combat.
The kebab attack, as I like to call it,
the skewer.
The skewer attack is my favorite thing right now. I was like, so what's happening there? We saw it in the trailer. We see it here as well, is where they're basically able to stab an enemy, smash it around like as if on the end of a hammer. So that's you're like Chris is like, yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah,
You've
that's
defined it.
It's pretty awesome.
But it actually has a stun as well, right? It's not just the attack on the one thing that you skewered. It actually it has an area effect.
Yeah, so the Blood Knight stabs their polearm forward into the closest enemy, then swings overhead the enemy and slams it into the ground, stunning everyone in a small AoE. And there are also legendary essences that let you lunge forward or actually leap to perform the slam.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's awesome.
And then I know, like, of course, with every class in Immortal, they all have different ultimates depending on their primary attack skills and so forth. Like, what kind of two different ultimates can we expect with the Blood Knight?
Yeah, I could talk a bit about the primary attacks. The first is Ravage. They're basically swinging their polearm around in a 3-hit combo. And right here is the ultimate, where they become a 5-hit combo with a stun at the end. And
Dual wielding polearms, that's... I like.
And the other primary attack they have is called Shadow's Edge. It's quite a unique one. It's the first in Immortal where the in melee range, the Blood Knight will do a slash, and for enemies that are further away, they'll actually throw the dagger forward. And there are legendary essences that add damage over time or make the dagger ricochet.
Nice. So you can essentially it's good room clear type of abilities is what I'm hearing. So if you got a ton of mobs in front of you, especially if the daggers are ricocheting and you mentioned piercing and so forth with the ultimate and everything, you can essentially clear out whole rooms with that. So it's awesome to hear. I know, as you mentioned beforehand, tons of legendary essences and everything that are associated to kind of modify skills.
So this is really cool. This is where you transform into an abomination, similar to, I guess, like a druid. You turn into a bear form. This is your abomination form, and you have special skill sets which will be actually modified with legendaries. Okay, there are so many legendaries. I believe there's about 10 for each armor slot, weapon slot. There's like 10 new legendaries for you to collect. And what's also really nice is that you'll be able to test out all of these legendaries without collecting the legendaries. You'll be able to test out all of the Blood Knight skills in a new Fractured Plains. There will be a Blood Knight only Fractured Plains available on July 13th when the Blood Knight is released. You'll be able to play with all of the different legendaries, different modified skills from a Blood Knight. So I'm super excited. I will be changing to a Blood Knight and playing Blood Knight and making a lot of builds and a lot of tests when Blood Knight comes out on July 13th. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next video.